Hello everybody, and welcome back to this very final video that is created for the internet computing class. And this is an optional video again, and the learning contents of this unit are optional for undergraduate students within the undergraduate section. And the contents that we talk about in conjunction with what you created previously may be used for your classwork 3, which is again optional for the undergraduate section. What I'm going to be talking about today is about the ASP.NET AJAX framework. AJAX has become really popular immensely in the web development community. The reason for that is it's actually a very interesting addition on the server-side / client-side processes that enables you to perform certain kinds of things on this client machine without the need to do an entire post back to the server. And if you have worked with the control data in my previous video lecture of Unit 10, and if you plug a database in, you would see that it's coming back and forth, especially if you have a massive amount of data processing doing. It's going to slow down your system and the communications between your client and the server. AJAX would enable you to do that kind of processes, some of the processes on the client side and refresh the client side view without the need to go entirely to the server and process everything back. So the technology that has driven AJAX has been around for some time. It wasn't really until the beginning of 2005 that it got the official name. It stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML, which enables your client-side web pages to exchange data with the server through asynchronous calls. This is in contrast with the postbacks that synchronously utilize client-side and server-side processes. The most popular feature that is driven by AJAX is the flicker-free pages that enables you to perform a post back to the server without refreshing your entire page. And as I said, that's really a useful tool when if you wanted to refresh the entire page, that would basically be made up of a huge amount of data going back and forth between the client and server. So to enhance your website with AJAX features, you can choose among different AJAX frameworks. And each of them offers certain kinds of features and tools. For example, client-side JavaScript framework to enable AJAX in the browser and also at the server end at the same time. There are a number of different mechanisms that you could use and frameworks on AJAX. The most obvious one is the ASP.NET, Microsoft ASP.NET AJAX, because it comes fully integrated with the .NET framework 4.0 and above, and the Visual Web Developer that we are using. The nice thing about using AJAX, ASP.NET AJAX is that it has great interoperability with other client-side frameworks such as jQuery and so on. So you're not just limited to ASP.NET AJAX alone. So the way that AJAX works is that, say, if you have a mechanism on the server, like a label, and then you have a page made up of a bunch of server controls, including that label, and then it goes to the browser. The traditional request is that essentially when you do a post back, there are two methods that will be invoked, either a get or a post, and then it would make a full request for an entire page to the server on the client's behalf, and then server would process all of the controls on the server and then would send back or post back the entire page. So the drawback with that is that the entire page needs to be loaded after a post back. So the HTML sent to the browser is much larger than it needs to be, especially if you have a lot of data. For example, this view on the files on the server, this is a data control, so it has a ton of files on the server. That entire process needs to be taken care of. Even though, let's say, I wanted to just change a timer, little timer on top here, that is a very lightweight process. The second drawback of a full page reload has to do when your browser renders the page, because the entire page is replaced. Then the browser has to dismiss the old data and refresh the entire page, and that is what causes flickers. So if I do a post back, a full post back, if I had a little button here that I would click on it, and then it would refresh the time, then the entire page would be posted back and then reloaded onto the browser, which is what causes the browser to look flickery. And this is unattractive, and it doesn't amount to a really good user experience. If users wanted to just see the time change by the press of the button, say refresh time, they wouldn't really expect to see the whole page kind of going back and forth and being reloaded entirely. So they would want to see just the label that has the time on the server to just refresh. What is happening with your AJAX? You basically will be able to specify a partial location of your page, a partial control or set of controls that you would like to refresh as an interaction with the user happens. Then you would like to make an AJAX request instead of a full postback request to your web server, for this web server to process that partial location or partial response, send you the partial response back to your browser, and your browser to take care of it without the need to changing the entire page or to reloading the entire page. So it enables you to create flicker-free pages that enable you to refresh portions of the page without a full reload and without affecting other parts of the page. Provide feedback to users during the page refreshes. For example, if as a part of click of a button, you want to upload some data from the client side on the browser to the server side, say on a database, you might want to kind of show a little bar, progress bar that shows that process to you. You can use that to provide feedback to the users during the page refreshes. You can update sections of the page and call server-side codes on a scheduled basis by using a timer. So for example, if a lot of people are updating data on my page, on my website, and putting a lot of files there, I might want to make this view, this grid view of my file lists, to be updated every, say, 5 seconds or so that it would reflect the most up-to-date directory of my files. I can do that. I can update the section of the page. You can access server-side web services and page methods and work on the data that they return. And then you can use the rich client-side programming framework to access and modify elements in your page and also get access to a code model and type system that looks similar to that of .NET before. So you don't really have to be familiar with client-side programming like PHP or JavaScript and things like that. So there are two important components here, important parts that AJAX is consisted of. ASP.NET AJAX server controls, and then the client-side ASP.NET AJAX library. So if you study chapter 10 of the textbook, you will be exposed and learn a lot about these components. So, but however, AJAX is actually a broader subject, and so you would really, I mean, if you wanted to fully utilize it, you would have to have a kind of a course in itself. However, it's very easy to get it started and to create flicker-free pages. Essentially, it's a matter of dragging and dropping a couple of AJAX controls onto your page, and then very minor programming components that goes into it. So next, I'm going to be showing you how to do that. What I'm going to do is that we're going to create a flicker-free page using AJAX. And then what that means is that I'm going to create a label that shows the time on the server, and then I'm going to create a button. Then we're going to update by the press of the button. We're going to update the time. So we're going to post back to the server, request for the time to be taken, and then process that, and then post back the entire page. And you see that it causes flicker. Then what you're going to do is that you're going to use the AJAX update panel control, and then we're just going to make that panel to be updated every time you press the button, and then that way we will see how you can make this page flicker free without having to repost the whole page. We just repost back just the contents of the control panel or the update panel. Alright, so here's what we are going to do. I'm going to bring a label and put it on the top of this page, and then a button, and then we will use the page load method to update the text of the label to show the time. So let's go in here. We're going to go to the default page, and then at the bottom of this page we're going to bring an ASP label. I'll call it time label. Alright, and then let's run this page. So you shouldn't see any difference because the table doesn't have any information in it. Let's actually go back into our page and type in here server time. Okay, just organize this a bit more. Alright, now we're going to go to the page load method of our default .aspx web form and update the label to show the date and time. So if we go to the page load and then time label.text equals system date time now okay, I just used the too short time string so that it'll just show 10:28 a.m. So the time is 10:28 a.m. Now every time when I refresh my page, as you see, if you notice on top here, the entire page is being posted back, and it takes a little bit of time on the processing side of it to process. You don't see the flicker on this page though, because it doesn't require massive processing, but still the entire page is being posted back, and that's the purpose of using AJAX processes to update a lightweight process, such as updating the server time, instead of having to repost back the entire page. Now let's go on our default page and then drag a little button here, and then I'll call this get time. And so every time when I double click the button, it should post back my information on the page. Okay, the ID of the button was not right. So I don't need to do a control F5 or refresh the page. I just click on the get time button, and as you know, get time requests a button click requests a post back. So by doing a post back, I'm basically making a full request on behalf of the browser to reload the entire page, and that will cause flicker. Notice that nothing else except for the time needs change. So to show you a little bit more of how it works, let's change this time instead of short string to a longer time string. So you see every time when I press the button, the entire page is loaded up and requests the time to be posted back and the page to be posted back. So we're going to fix this problem next. Alright, now to solve this problem, we need to do two things. One is we have to have an update panel control. The opt-in panel control is a key component to create Flickr pre-pages. In a most basic application, such as here, just updating the label content from the server, We simply wrap our controls that we want to update in an update panel control, and then we add a script manager to the page, and that takes care of it. What happens is that whenever the control requests a post back, only the content of that control panel would be updated, and the script manager would basically take care of that. So what we're going to do is that this ASP label, the time label, and the get time button, these we want them to be updated and not the rest of the page. So we need to go and drag from the AJAX extensions an update panel control, and then bring it here inside of our page. Notice that this update panel basically has an ID and a run at server property. So let's call this update time panel as the ID, and then let's drag the closing tag of it at the end, and then we need to bring a content template tag within the update panel. Content template is what actually makes up the content within the panel. Alright, so now here's what I have. I have an update panel. It has a content template with the content that I want to update. And oops, I placed this in the wrong location. Should be towards the end. So basically that's what my update panel does. Now, before the opening tag of my update panel, I need to bring a script manager from the AJAX extension, and that's this control here. And we bring it and place it within our content. So I'm going to put the script manager right before my content template, or my update panel. And you just call this script manager 1, and it's run at property at the server. So when we go and refresh our page, now the page is updated, and every time you press get time, I want you to notice here the set time, or the server time rather, and the label that shows me the time here, and the get time button are the only components that are being posted back. Now notice on top here, the localhost tab basically on my viewer, on my web browser, as well as at the bottom my status bar, they are not updated, which means that I'm not making the full post back request to the server to post back the entire page, but rather just the control that I had. By wrapping the content of your controls that you would like to post back to the server in an update panel, you define a region of your page that you want to refresh without affecting the entire page. So in this example that I just showed you, my update panel contains my button and the label that I wanted to post back. Now, if you analyze with a network analysis tool what goes between the server and the browser, you notice that there's only a limited amount of data from the client that is being sent back to the server and the request bringing back, rather than the full page. So it's a very small and minuscule amount of data going back between your server and browsers, which is what basically makes your page look flicker free. So only the two controls that have been defined within my content template, basically here between the closing and opening tag of my content template, are the controls that are being sent, and the remaining text basically maintains within the view state of your page. What does the script manager control do? The script manager control serves as a bridge between your client and the server. It manages all of your script resources, the JavaScript files that are used at the client, and takes care of the partial page updates as we just showed here. It also handles interactions with your website for things like web services, application services such as membership, roles, and profiles. That if you were to work with, a login mechanism for your server that, or for your web application or web page that takes care of the database of the servers and their roles and memberships and profiles within your application. We usually place our script manager directly in the content page where we want the AJAX capabilities to be used. And here we just showed it in our page. You can also place your script manager in the master pages, and that way, if your site has a master page, and that way it'll be accessible to all the pages that are using that master page. To have this AJAX capabilities taken care of for them. There are a number of properties that are useful for advanced scenarios, and if you refer to your textbook on pages 339 and 340, you can learn about what kinds of properties your script manager basically has and is capable of dealing with. All right. Finally, before I wrap up this lecture and this unit about using AJAX functionalities, I'd like to introduce you to a little helpful tool. It's called the timer control, and show you a simple example of it. And you can think of many other examples integrated into your websites. Timer control is also under the AJAX extension. It's basically a little scripting tool on the client side that can invoke certain things on your server at certain amounts of time, and it's great for performing repetitive processes or requesting server-side code on a repetitive basis. In our example here, let's suppose that we want to refresh. I have a button that I can click and get the time on the server, but aside from that, that is practically static and nothing changes. So if I leave my office and come back, I'll still see the time that was before I left, or the last time that I updated the page. So let's suppose that we want to update or run our update panel and make requests every 5 seconds. We can make this content basically to go back in between server and the client on an updatable basis. So for example, another example of it is that if I wanted to have a database to pull the latest forum posts from a news feed or a forum website or an XML file and rotate advertisements and other kinds of examples on a repetitive basis on my site, the timer control is going to be very helpful for that. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to bring a timer control, set its interval, and then within that interval, it's going to be executing a time tick. And then on each time tick, I'm going to update the content, the text of my label to show the time. So, and it's very easy and straightforward. You'll just bring in a timer control, and let's call it update timer. And of course, it's going to run at server. I'm going to set an interval for it. And the interval is in milliseconds. So I'm going to put 5,000 on the millisecond. And then I'm going to assign its onTick property. Actually, let's do that from its on the design view. And then double click on your timer. The tick timer would show up, and then in the source view, its onTick property is set as onTick, and then update timer underscore tick. So again, we've got a timer name ID run at server 5000, and its tick functionality is called update timer tick. And so I've got my update timer tick function created for me. So what I want this to do is to go ahead and update my time label text just as it does with my page load, which is a functionality that updates the timer when I click on the button. And now I want this to also happen on the time tick of my timer. Notice that since the timer is within the content template of my update panel, it's going to be within the refreshable area of my site. So every time an interval passes, the onTick function or the onTick method of my timer is going to be executed, which in case is going to go and request from the server to get the time and date of the server to show on my page. So I'm going to save my files and go to my browser and refresh my page. So as you see here, now my timer is created, and every 5 seconds, so 11:22:57 is going to be 11:03:23:02. Next time, 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds later, it's going to be 11:23:07. So every time, since the timer is within my update panel, which is an AJAX control, it's going to make a request, and then all it does is going to update the content of just the label. Which is my time label. And if I wanted to get times at other intervals than the 5 milliseconds, it's going to show. I can do that by pressing the Get Time button. So my next is going to be 48, and then 53, and then 58, and so here's another example of another useful AJAX control. So this wraps up my unit on using AJAX extensions in your website. And so chapter 10 of the textbook has all the contents of this unit that you need. And so so with this, I will close up the lecture, Learning Unit 11, AJAX controls. And again, this unit is optional for undergraduates. In the graduate section, please study this and please try to work on this. It's going to be a very helpful process for you when you're developing websites and you want to perform partial refresh of certain areas of your web content from the server without the need for full postback. I hope that this was informational and helpful, and good luck with your final projects. Bye.